Hey everybody, Heidi here, and today's program is Meditative Drawing. Just a reminder that if you are enjoying our programs to please hit the thumbs up button that's at the bottom there, like the program, and that helps increase its popularity so more people will see it. Also, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and just know that all of our programming is archived so you can go back and watch it anytime later. So, Meditative Drawing. This is an activity that I really enjoy. This is why I'd be presenting it to you, of course. But it is something that is more an exercise, an activity, a meditation, depending on where you're at and what you want to do with it. Not necessarily having to be a product-driven activity. It is something that I do use. Some of the designs inspire my embroidery and needlepoint work, and you could also use these doodles in lots of ways, on cards or on photographs. I'm going to have a link to some programs on Creative Bug. It's a database that you have access to with your Ann Arbor District Library card. And Lisa Congdon has done a few programs along these lines that are really great to watch and inspiring as well. Okay, so before we do get started with the activity, there's some preparation to it because it is a meditative activity. So the idea that when you're working in this, you are conscious of your breathing, you're aware of your body, and you're working to, be relaxed and just be more in tune with where you are in that moment, hence a meditation. So in order to do that, you kind of have to settle yourself in, get some of the wiggles out, and it's good to take a few deep breaths to basically center yourself. I did used to teach a lot of yoga, did lots of different breathing. I'm not going to do anything complicated here. Just encouraging you to take some nice slow breaths, inhaling by your nose, going to hold for a moment, exhale by your mouth, just nice and slow. And as you're breathing, you breathe in usually more using the upper part of the lungs. We breathe pretty shallow throughout most of the day. So that's why there's this time now to have focus and intention with your breath and working to use your full capacity of your lungs, access it as much as possible. I recommend starting off with like about 3 breaths because each one you start to get a little deeper into your lungs. You also get deeper into feeling more calm, more relaxed. So I'll do some with you here. All we're going to do is breathe in, and it's about a count of 5, we'll say. So just breathing in by the nose. And the exhale goes a little bit longer. It's nice and slow as much as you possibly can. So you're just breathing as long as possible, as slow as possible, as deep as possible. So inhale by the nose. Exhale. Just like that. And then to get some of the wiggles out, you're sitting in a chair, ideally, comfortably with good posture for this as well, because the better posture promotes better breathing. And it's also just good for your ergonomics of your body. I'm just going to push my seat back here. You could stand up and stretch, whatever you feel you're needing that day. But I'm just going to move back here so you can see. I just usually like to bring my hands up, and then I start to flip the palms and push up towards the ceiling, and then arms down, the fingers spread wide. And it's just a nice stretch. I feel it through my elbows, my shoulders. Inhaling as you push up, and then exhaling your arms down. Just another one. You can have a nice sigh at the end. If you'd like, you can kind of do your one arm over to the side. Just kind of working it out, loosening up the shoulders. Sometimes I like to lean forward and really reach my arms back as much as possible. Starting to open up through the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then relaxing it. You can just roll out the wrists. I know you can't hear it, mine are crackling. And it's good to work with the finger joints too, keep your fingers loose and limber. Okay, now ready to draw. Alright, so what is meditative drawing? Well, meditative drawing, like I said before, it's an exercise. It's a process, really, just more process-oriented. You do get a product, a result that you can keep, or you don't have to hold on to it. The idea is that you're sitting down, taking some time to focus on yourself, and to even allow time for your mind to wander, because it is basically a doodling. You're taking these different motif designs and repeating them and just kind of letting it fill the space, working without a plan necessarily, or especially not working with with that ego, with that self-talk about whether or not it's good enough, or you should have done this over here, or you don't like how that line just came out. It doesn't matter. It's just really more for the enjoyment, for the pleasure of doing. But also, in that somewhat simplicity of drawing, the doodling allows you to focus on your breathing, focus on the tension that might be, creeping into your body, and it's just to allow, to notice, to allow for it to be there without the judgment. You're saying that it's wrong, that it happened. You just take a breath, and you start to let that go. It's just like meditation, where you might, if you've ever tried that, you keep bumping into, the wandering thoughts, and you're like, oh, I did it again. It's okay. It's going to happen. The mind is going to do that. There's a lot of processes happening at once. But then you just find that noticing of it happening, and then you take that opportunity to refocus. So that's what we're here to do today, and have some fun playing with color and other things. So let's talk about the tools we're going to use. For my purposes today, I just have a very basic kind of paper, a marker paper that's great for pen and ink drawing. It is in a 6x8 sheet, which I tend to cut down because I like the smaller size. I don't really like working with such a big space these days. Other papers you could use, there are, these are called tiles, from the method of Zentangle. And the meditative drawing, it's a derivative of Zentangle. You can even look for a website called zentangle.com, which I'll put that in the description, amongst many other links. But you can buy these tiles from them. Also, there is a business called Blick Art, where you can find these. You could also look for what are called artist trading cards. They're about the size of a playing card generally. I work with a size that's similar to that, the 4x3, just by cutting my paper down. So this was cutting that paper in half. I cut it in half long ways to make more of a bookmark shape, or that other wide way, to get a few different pieces out of there. Okay. So you're just going to have kind of a nice paper, but you could also work with a cardstock. I've done that as well, or whatever drawing paper you might have. Just really want something that feels nice with the pen and the ink. If you have a drawing paper and you prefer to work with pencil, certainly that fits. So that is another thing you need to have, is a pencil. If you were to do your drawings purely in pencil, I highly recommend having something that does not have an eraser. So again, you can allow for whatever is on the page just to be with what you work with. That's why I tend to work with the pen a lot. I also just like the look of the pen. These are a brand called Sakura, and they have pens in different types as well, in different like weights, basically. There's different lines that they can be thicker or thinner that you might like to work with. And then I just have a set of brush pens. Any brand will do. Brush pens have it's a marker that has the brush tip, and mine also have a pointed tip on the other end. So it's nice to add color, or even just work with a colored pen if you'd like. Okay, So you have your materials, and it's good now. We're going to take some time for a little bit of warming up still, loosening up for the practice before diving right onto a tile. And that gives you a moment to appreciate your tools, to take some time and really find the value in the items you have at your hand to work with today. So here I have my pen, and when you're working with your drawings and using your pen, you hold the pen comfortably with your hand relaxed and start to consider that the pen is an extension of your body. And as you draw, you're going to move with your drawing, your whole body. So for example, let's just set the pen down. And as you take an inhale breath and then exhale, bring the pen towards you using your arm and maybe even your body. You start to lean back. So you're just making lines with the breath. If I use just my hand, it's just okay, but it's not as loose, and it doesn't have that fluidity. You could also just from side to side. See how the hand is moving as a unit. There are some motifs that will be a little bit smaller though, so you're not going to have as much of an arm movement. There is, for example, this flower petal, and place the pen down, and without lifting it, just kind of make a little loop and meet at that point, and then go back in the other direction, and then the other direction again. And you can just keep going along. You could place them so it starts to look more like maybe a flower if you'd like. You can also just keep expanding a line of them. Just kind of bring your pen to where you feel they intersect, and just adding as you go. Some other designs you can play with would be circles, just drawing circles of different sizes. And then you could add in maybe a squiggly line that kind of connects them. You can also color them in a little bit, make more of a crescent here. That starts to give them three-dimensionality. Working with all kinds of designs. I really recommend, if you're feeling stumped, to do a search on Pinterest or Instagram for meditative drawing or Zentangle patterns. And you'll find a lot of examples, a lot of things to be inspired by. Yes, just kind of moving along. I'm just getting used to moving with my pen, doing some lines, overlapping. And see, just pulling it towards you. It's a very different feeling. That's why it's good. You just keep turning your work. So if you had a sketchbook or something like that that you're using, I mean, it's nice to be able to remove your pages so you can just work with it, and that's why it's also called a tile. It's that, you know, standalone piece. Alright, so feeling pretty good about that. Little warming up and appreciating this nice pen that I have, and move on towards setting up my tile. So again, this isn't necessarily a process, you know, it's rules oriented, there has to be strict structure, but having these certain steps to go through does help get you here, right? Preparing yourself. As in any, you know, any yoga class would begin with a breathing exercise and often some moments of just stillness to help, you know, get yourself into the space you're in. So that's what we're trying to do today. I'm going to zoom in a little here so you can see more clearly how I'm going to set up my tile. So this is where I use my pencil. I'm just going to make 4 points on this card, putting the pencil down and then just drawing it towards me, aiming for that point, turning, and making the next one. Okay, so then the next step is drawing the thread. You don't have to. You could, again, just work with this open space. If, you know, fill it with whatever design you would like. I do like to divide up the space. So you can see there's some borders there. This is a booklet from when we did this program at the library. And my friend Molly created this little booklet of different designs, which is really handy. Anyway, she prepared it by drawing a line here, and then this couple that met in the middle and came out, and that made nice, you know, triangular sections, which is fun to play with too. You could start from the middle and draw out to the corners, or don't even use the corners at all, which I think is how I'm going to go. So I'm just going to set my pencil here and just with a breath, just letting that move. I'm going to turn it and create another thread, another section. And so I'm feeling pretty good with those as they are. So yeah, we'll just work with that. Just have those 3. Okay, I'm going to set my pencil down and get into some pattern making. So many decisions to make here, so that's why, again, no rush. Take a breath, start to consider. Are you feeling circle, triangle, straight line, wavy line? You know, what seems to be your fancy at the moment? All right. What is the fancy? So I'm going to work with some straight lines first. I think I'll go right over here into this section. And placing my pen tip down and nicely drawing straight line to the other point. And I'm going to work with these kind of close together at first, and then a little bit wider in between. Making sure that's in focus for you. Maybe a little more diagonal. I think that's enough. And I'd like to do some lines now that are slanted. And a lot of these, I call it a motif it's really the appropriate term. I guess it would be called a tangle. If you are reading a Zentangle book, you'll see they've been named. There are different names for these designs. I'm just going to keep going like that. Let's see, go this direction now. Start to see how to build that one up. Let's see, what else could we do? Another design that I really like. I'm going to do some wavy intersecting lines. I'm going to do those triangles. Those are always a lot of fun. So, in fact, I think I'm going to add in a couple more spaces so we can have some more designs to play with. So I'm just going to make another narrow strip here. Alright. And just draw some triangles. Maybe, you can kind of create a rule within your pattern. That's an okay rule. Maybe the triangles always overlap just a little bit, like that. You want them to kind of be in a row. I've done other triangle patterns where I just let the triangles be all different sizes, just laying on top of each other. Which I kind of like that look. Start to turn the work so I can move the direction of this line of triangles. I can just keep moving through with that. But now let's go on to another section. And I really do like those holes. So I'm going to make some holes. Just drawing these circles. Some littler ones too. Maybe one that's kind of not all the way in that section. Now to make these, like I was showing you while we were warming up, kind of making a little bit of a crescent shape in there to shade that in. And just keep going, making them, even the little ones, a little bit of a shadow on there. So it's like you're looking in. I do really like that flower petal design. I'm going to add one more thread now to this. So it's just going to have a lot of different patterns on it. And turn it this way and start that flower petal pattern. I'm just finding that point. And I always hit a stage when I'm drawing these where I'm like, I really don't like that one section. Like personally right now, the triangle's not really what I think I wanted them to be, but I need to let it go and focus on this. Because I've often found when I go back and it's done, I do appreciate an area that I laid down after the fact, even though I didn't write in the moment. So again, just noticing those judgments. Sometimes it could have value. But mostly just letting it, just leaving it. The one value I do find sometimes in a judgment is that if I don't really like it, I'm often thinking of how I would change it or do it next time. It might inspire an idea. Sometimes it's kind of like it's a problem and I want to, do it something differently next time. So I could just keep filling with these flowers. That's what I kind of think of them as, just little petals. And then be aware, are you starting to really hunch in and get down onto the work? Your hands are getting tight, or you're pressing really, a lot with your finger, and you're starting to even, create, like you have a little bit of a dent there, leaning in. You just set the pen down, take a nice inhale, and even a good sigh at the end of it. And I guess, that moment, kind of refocus. So let's move on to another panel. Another option we could do is, let's try just some squiggly lines. Don't worry, is it not squiggly enough? Just laying it down. So I don't have a lot of room to work this one, but I have enough. So what I'd like to do now is in some of the dips, I'm going to thicken those. So as I go in, just kind of going over that curve. Thickening it. That's kind of fun. This one's also fun to do with a brush pen, which I'll show you in a moment. So the nice thing with the brush pen is the way you use the pressure affects how thick your line would be. And so you can really just kind of bump those up a little bit. Okay, so a lot of fun, a lot of little fun ideas to play with there. Next thing I want to talk to you about, though, is adding color to a design. So I should have one that was just black and white in my pile. There it is. Okay. So the other thing I haven't done on this, and sometimes I do it as I go, or sometimes not. Like, for example, this one I started to go over that line of the thread so I can really have those clearly defined borders. But it is also kind of nice to have just that open space, I think, as well. You know, in an empty space, it can be, you know, daunting, that empty page, but it is incredibly useful space as well, right? Because it is open to you. Okay, so we're going to play with some color now. So I have this nice pink pen I'm going to use. And, geez, where to begin? Lots of options. I think I'm just going to try drawing some more circles over my holes. I'll turn it this way. There's some little ones. I'm still staying loose with, you know, how I'm using the pen. Let's go through here and I'm just going to color these in. And I'm working pretty lightly where it's skinny. So I'm not pressing too hard with the brush, because we didn't really do any warm-up with that, but it's a good thing to play with and practice with. Just kind of filling that in like that. We'll use the other side tip, the pointy tip, and draw some other lines in there. Maybe not in every single section. Kind of random. Just gives it another little layer, which is fun. So do check the links. There is a link I'm going to place for a class on the Creative Bug database by Lisa Congdon. And if you have an Ann Arbor District Library card, you are able to access all those classes, all that content for free. It's part of your library membership that's available to you. Okay, so what else can we do? We can add some more to these little waves, maybe. One more up here. And anytime I feel like I want to go in the other direction, I have to remember to just turn this, and it's better to work with the pen at the top and bringing it towards you for this kind of practice. Just gives you that consistency of movement and flow. These guys are a bit of a challenge. I could just color in the outside where I didn't put any in. And just make that a nice solid section. Guess I'll just do that. Kind of loosely. Might go over onto some of the ones that are drawn. That's okay. Brush pen's really nice. Just it's kind of similar, to you get to paint that color in. Can work really delicately. Just seeing how you can, keeping it black and white can be really cool. Sometimes a pattern like this one could also just add some dots. If you didn't have a pen, you didn't want to do that, but you want to still give it a little bit of a depth of background. That can be one way to go about it as well. The other thing I didn't do on this one, I didn't do that border, so I'm going to use my pen tip. Oops, wrong one. And go along that thread, just inking that in. So it's kind of already formed because I did that coloring. Just going over it a little more clearly. Could even use a different color pen to do that. Sometimes I do that for the border. Just kind of go along and accent it with another color. You could even use these pens to draw your tangles. It doesn't have to be just a black, those specific kind of artistic pens. You can use these markers. Whatever you're feeling that day, whatever maybe look that you're going for. You could use these, as cards, as gift tags, something like that, a bookmark, but again, it doesn't have to be a product. Right? It's just about having some time, some play, and this might inspire you in other ways. I really do encourage you to watch those Lisa Congdon programs. They're not very long. She has some where she has done these doodles and applied them to photographs. Just a lot of really cool work. There's a method of using watercolor to lay some fields of color down and you draw into them. I can show you a couple of what I mean by that. So it's something like this where you have a page and then you can start to add different designs onto your sections of watercolor. So that was really fun to do. Well, I thank you all for watching and joining me in this exercise and seeing how you can play with just different designs and color, kind of see what you come up with. And again, you can even just use those brush pens. I didn't actually end up demonstrating that for you, but as you go light and hard, you can get, different kinds of thicknesses with the brush. So take some time to play, to put all these things together that we went over. It's just to, relax. Maybe a little stretch will help. Breathe. Smile, especially if you start to hear self-talk about this isn't good enough, or you shouldn't have placed that line there, or that was a sloppy move. I can come up with lots of things that I hear. So smile. Especially, again, you notice, you hear those things that you're saying to yourself, and it is good to smile and laugh and not have to take it so seriously. Appreciate that you have an opportunity to sit, if it's even just 5-10 minutes. You can really take it anywhere, just a simple pencil and paper. Draw your border, draw in your strings. With your pen, you're going to draw your tangles. You could shade them in with a pencil or with a marker or pen, some other color. And it's nice too to initial your work and give it a date, and you come back to it and it might, trigger, oh yeah, that was that really nice day or whatever. You have that so that you can reflect on your work, appreciate what you're doing, appreciate yourself, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me.